We have the entire dais. So I'm happy and I'm the man here who can be questioned, who can be asked why you keep coming to Bhutan, why you keep coming, why you like Bhutan, why you're doing everything here. You know, all those issues will come. But as I told you, that my love for Bhutan started in 2008 and is only extended and expanded. And I feel if I can do and contribute my bit to because we can only do our bit, because at the end of the day we're human beings, we are not, I would say, the omnipresent, you know. He's there to help us more, but if we have good faith in ourselves, if we move forward, we can do wonderful work. Now, before I start, I have a lot to tell about the economy. I want to give this dais off to Santosh Goenka first, and let Santosh have a say. Would you come here, sir?
Thank you, Professor Ayu. Brothers and sisters of Bhutan, it's such a pleasure. It's my first visit to Bhutan and I'm excited. The 2 days that I've been there, I've taken my walks, I've seen around. I think it's a beautiful country, beautiful people, and we need to strengthen the bonds between the two countries. I'm so excited. I just want to say that my journey of around 32 years, in media, I have seen things through the eyes of media. When I was 18 and I was doing my graduation in Bangalore, my grandfather, who was the founder of the Indian Express, handpicked me and said, why don't you go to the printing press? That was my first, involvement with the printing and the publishing of Indian Express. Where did I start? It was the shop floor. Now this I'm saying because we have a lot of entrepreneurs in Bhutan. They need to get inspired by my story. I started young, and I was always excited about life. Even during school days, boarding days, every day was a new day, every day was an exciting day. And when I came into the workplace, the people around at Indian Express treated me like a little child who wanted to learn more. I didn't go as a boss. I went as a person who could work with them. In 1981, I started. Then I moved to Bombay. I again started from the shop floor in Bombay, the printing press, and then took up marketing, which was the first thing to do. And thereby, I got into launching some of the titles of Indian Express. It was a tough work, 20 hours of work, 2-3 hours of sleep, but I was always excited. That was the best way for me, because my grandfather didn't pay me too much money. So I could easily save my money, whatever he paid me as pocket money, if I were to spend more time at the printing press or the publishing business. But I caught hold of the essence of the business. My grandfather fought for the freedom struggle. The Indian Express was born because of the freedom struggle. And it has a big history. I mean, it fought the emergency, it fought establishment. It was the boldest newspaper the country could have. In fact, years later, after I launched the titles, I took a line that from politics, we need business and economy to be taken care of. So I moved from the Daily Indian Express and Financial Express into what we call the B2B publications. In '94, I told my brother, who was the chairman, I want to start something totally new. I'm getting bored with the daily papers, putting ink on paper. Why can't we put ink on titles which can be relevant to the audience, to the different communities? And I started on 30 titles. The first title on IT industry. Those days, IT industry was just rising in India. The first title on hoteliering and hospitality. The first title on pharma business. Like that, I did 30 titles. I have got one copy just to show you what it looks now, those titles. And then thereafter, after I moved away from the Express, I started 63 titles. It was during the early days in 95, 96 when I started, one of the titles called Express Business Avenues, which was trying to rope in all the opportunities in business in a low circulation publication. And I needed some writer who understood the field of energy. So I had Professor Iyer come in as a friend, and I told, why don't you start writing? You speak very well. You understand the subject. You have worked with the best companies in energy. And he started a column called Energy Talk. That column ran for 6 to 7 years. It was the most read column because energy touches our lives. And thereafter is history. You see Professor in flesh and blood influencing the world of energy. We have had, at least in my career of 20 years in the B2B side, 400 editors would have worked with me. Many of them are their own bosses. They don't work for anybody, they work for themselves. And the big news for Bhutan is, if you take a life with media, you will not have a boring moment. Every day is going to be exciting. When you meet somebody from the industry, you are excited. And Khajanchi ji was just narrating some story about, a friend of his whom he had met. And he was a journalist. And how excited he would be. Always have people come in and out. Because a journalist, there are two types. One is when you are dealing with politics and the main agenda for the nation. The other is when you are an economic journalist who wants to see good happen. And I think Bhutan is just the territory where people can, it's just very virgin territory. It is something that needs to nurture its people. So people who are part of, say, the hospitality industry, energy, any segment, if they start asking questions, the right questions, they can inspire or they can take the inspiration both ways from people who are entrepreneurs. I'm so excited. I think this group here, while Hydro is just the excuse to come here, there's a lot that we can share. And Professor is like your guide. Seeing him after so many years, I think he is today at the right time. Modi's agenda was energy. He had won the election on the basis of energy. So if you look at it, he talked at Uttar Pradesh, he said, do you have 24 hours of 24/7 electricity? Professor had already started this whole thing when he was the chief minister. Why did Gujarat excel? Because Gujarat was providing 24/7 electricity. The basic thing. Without electricity, just imagine a day without it. So just imagine Inertia Foundation, Professor Iyer, while this is one subject, he understands the overall subject. And I'm surprised and amused that a person like this, after so many years, is almost leading an industry. And imagine the various other people who have worked with me on different subjects of hoteliering, on textiles. I can narrate that. I have 100 titles almost on my lips. Each of these people are influencing the world of economy in different parts. One is to run a political paper where you feel proud of hitting out at the political force. I think many of us are doing it. Now we have got to be constructive. And I think here is a person who's always trying to balance out, trying to get people together. He's wanting to lead by example. And I think the type of changes that are happening today in the economic, this one, and how energy is going to play a big role. I think every day, Professor, whenever he speaks to me, he says, this has happened. This is what we crusaded for, and it's happening. Because our lives are connected with it. Nobody can take energy for granted anymore. I think Bhutan has a great scope. It's a beautiful country. It can lead on hydro. People have got to learn that hydro is not alone. There are several other things that can come in. We are genuinely wanting to build this little community. They are our friends. They are almost similar. Our thoughts, everything are same. I've met a few people yesterday and day before yesterday, and I'm amazed. I'm excited. I think they are the ones who will do the work. We can only inspire our youth. Youth is your example. They are the ones to do things for you. Professor Iyer is the gift India has, and I'm happy to play the role of a mentor, somebody who has seen him through thick and thin. He comes from a place called Dombivli in Bombay, which is a suburban town. He still lives there. He travels to Delhi. At one of the awards function, I said, here is a man who comes from a small place. Every day he travels. He's a simple person. And he has made waves. He has made things happen. He walks his talk. Does it ceaselessly. I think if entrepreneurs here can just be ceaseless in their attempt to do things, they can achieve what he has achieved. He is telling whatever I have achieved, but you have to burn the midnight oil. You have to work. The other thing is empathy for the people who work for you. It's a very special talent. Sometimes I feel I have empathy, but I could not go to the empathy levels that Professor has gone to. His driver is as important to him as his other people. Because he is taking you through to meet people. There is a tremendous amount, the more said, the less, It is amazing how, so we have just not come by accident. It's a divine, a cosmic design that we have all come in. He has come 3 times. I'm seeing through his eyes. I think there's a great brew which is brewing, and we need to be part of it. 27th of August is no ordinary day. It's a very special day. We are here. We are going to be here. In all your calendars, mark this day. None of us, we are going to be influencers in our community. Not fighting with each other, moving with each other. That's the message we have got. This conclave, 7th Hydro, will be remembered, and the next conclave that you have, we'll have more people, because you will spread the word. So that is the way we need to take it. Professor has come here. He's just not the professor for our community there in India. I am very proud that now he is part of Bhutan. And the great alliance, we have got some friends who are going to do, and we are going to push the best possible this one to make things work. Thank you so much.
Today we are discussing the Indo-Bhutan Hydro Cooperation and trying to see how there can be a possibility to see the 10 gigawatt will come. But the potential is, when I was discussing with Khazanchi ji, is roughly 24.3 or 24.6, sir? Approximately. The total is about roughly that, around 25 gigawatt. So at this point, it's about 25 gigawatt, the full potential. So the roadmap must be built, of course, by your policymakers and others. But I'm trying to see, what has Hydro done, There are always two sides to everything. But at the same time, in the largest perspective, I want to give you a background of what Hydro is all about, If you look at in India, the scenario, why I'm giving this India scenario, it's important to understand the macro situation because we have all forms of energy there. We have roughly at this point about 249 gigawatt, and let's say 250 gigawatt, in which the share of hydropower is roughly around 42 gigawatt, in India. And that is the highest share in renewable energy in the country. But that share was much more in the earlier stage, because when you convert that into a percentage share, it is only 16.5% now. And India was, about a decade back, the share of hydro was at the position of 26%. So what we have seen is a drop. But is this drop due to hydro lack of development, or is this because other forms of energy took their shape inside the economy? Both ways, I would say the answer from both ways, none of the statements is untrue. On one side, hydropower has its complexities in a country like India where we have to displace population. Unlike in Bhutan, there is not much of a problem in displacing of population. In India, the question of R&R, that is rehabilitation and reconstruction, where we have to give homes to people when they are displaced due to storage and other reasons, we end up taking a lot of legal issues and time. And roughly, including the construction factors, including a little bit of, I would say, environmental, clearances, which take long in the bureaucracy in India. The projects have been taking about 7 to 9 years in that period on an average, And many projects have even not taken shape. There are projects which have not come for 17 years. I can give you examples of a project we are discussing in close to Assam in the eastern region called Subhansiri. That project is just, people are telling me, Professor, why don't you take up this cost? Because it's just not moving. And then there was a case of India scrapping a hydro project called Lohari Nagpala in the state of Uttarakhand for no reasons. It was simply that it was a Gomukh, like it was, they said it is forming the face of a cow. So it became a religious issue. It had nothing to do with technical and any other thing. It was just closed. And in fact, I am opening that chapter up saying that you destroyed, you made all the work. The turbines came into India from Voith. Everything is lying and the project is not on. Everything is on, I tell you. So these two examples are not the positive examples, but examples to tell you what happens in a democracy. These are just the kind of things that are happening. But on the other side, if you look at the whole thing, what is happening to India? India has only 4% of global water resources. Okay, I'm not talking power now for hydro. I'm talking water. And we have an 18% population. I do not know how we will feed our 18% population without having adequate storage capacity in my country. And I can tell you this is not only my problem. It will be the global problem. As rightly said by Brahma Chelani, one of the famous bureaucrats and a man who served the foreign services, he made a book called The Water Wars. So the next war in the world will be on water, not in India alone. So unless we look at water and power as a combination factor, I tell you, we are going to face huge crisis. And I must say, you are a very blessed set of people who have already done water power from the beginning. So please give a big hand to Bhutan. Now, in that sentence lies one of my points. See hydropower from not power angle. See from the multiple benefit angle which India has delivered. As you are making your Thimphu slowly, a lot of concrete is coming, right? I've been watching from 2008 now. I see a lot of concretization, a lot of people developing houses. I don't know what is the type of municipal plan, what is the sewage and waste management plan, what is the city environmental factor plan. And every city will go through this mess. Because this idea called urbanization is one of the biggest sins committed by humanity. Because I consider that unless they have a sustainable model for this, we are going to create more mess in our cities. They will look clean from the front, but inside we are creating huge mess because we are the ones who are going to create it. We are going to be the consumers. We are going to be the people who will generate waste. We are going to be we will fund economy of consumption of our own and result in, we are our own crisis in that manner. And when you look at this, water is going to definitely, although I see Bhutan barely gets about 20 days of rain. This time I experienced that very closely because I came in that period. But you see all the melting of glaciers, huge amount of water flowing, and that is a ready power. You have to trap it. There's no question. But what about storage? So I think somewhere down the line, in your country also, as the urbanization happens from the east to west to north to south, you will have to look at storage as an additional benefit. Then you will not see this per megawatt cost as a deadly cost, which in India we are not seeing it that way because we are always contesting the issue that hydropower costs cannot be just calculated on every megawatt how much you need to spend. That's a very wrong concept because that's not the way. Another very interesting aspect of hydro I want to tell you is the asset quality and life. See, these assets, once you are environmentally sustaining it, you have to care for the environment. You cannot escape this fact that some damage will be created in every development. So what is that damage which is recoverable or which is retrievable? Greatest example of this is the largest global project on hydro. I will not take the China example, Three Gorges is the bad example, but I would take the example of 4 governments coming together in Itaipu Basin in Brazil, where Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina and Brazil together deliver water management, navigation, electricity and all. And believe me or not, it is not the governments of those 4 countries. It is the municipalities in that region which are supposed to cooperate first. And then the government is only a facilitator at the top. This is the longest operating project in the history of the world without any conflict. In fact, it is so funny that 35% of GDP of Uruguay is because of electricity payment by Brazil. So Brazil and Uruguay can never fight in their lifetime. You understand what I mean? So the dependence model and interdependence model in this must be understood. So 12,000 megawatt is electricity. But if you see the navigation, if you see the kind of business model and the figures that I have is just mind-boggling. Electricity is just at the tail end of the whole picture, minus generating revenue for the smaller economy of Uruguay. It is the other factors like navigation, it's people like fishermen who are benefiting, people who carry goods who are benefiting. And 50,000 species, see, environmentalists worldwide went after this project saying 50,000 species were lost. And I'll tell you, not only 50,000 species were retrieved in a decade, but now it is all the flora and fauna, I tell you, is booming there, like it is like an example of development, So I mean to say, let's not look always on the negative side. I started with the story, there is no catch. So I think there are a lot of issues. Constructively, we should definitely go for criticism. We must be worried about, definitely undue delays. Where there is a delay happening because of certain reason, we must all together understand. But I would say that in India also we face this blame game. It is because of this guy and that happened and this happened. More importantly, rather than looking at this, I would see the bigger picture. Bigger picture is potential. What is just to the Bhutanese economy? Then there was a major issue on rupee crisis. Then I went through that. In fact, I have given calculations in the magazine that you have. You'll find the calculations does not support the rupee crisis coming from hydro. People must come to senses, when they talk about a rupee crisis related to hydro. Of course, there is one issue that there is an aspiration level. In India, we happened. Last year, in India, out of a GDP of $2 trillion, our fiscal deficit rose to 5.2%. Then it was Chidambaram trying to target a lower level than 5%, and now Modi's government wants to bring it to 4.1%. Now, why does that fiscal deficit come? you will be surprised that export of manpower from India is just terrible. From the Indian Institute of Technologies, 60% of the people serve other countries. So why we are running IITs is a question that I am asking my country. Are we running IITs to feed our brains to the world? Next question. I come from an NIT. I am an engineer, mechanical engineer by training. And I did about 500 megawatts of captive before I came to publishing, thanks to Santosh. But I will tell you one interesting thing, that when I saw all this development from NIT, I'm critical of my own colleges. The NIT is just a very close, it's not a number 2, but a very close competitor to IITs. We have in every state of India one NIT. And I'm telling Modi sahab, don't develop IITs, zyada NIT banaiye. Because these National Institute of Technology, which were the regional engineering colleges, their figures are just interesting. In fact, now 80% of NITians stay back in India. So the reversal has happened in the NITs. And there are examples in PSUs everywhere where I see people from REC, and there are persons who are also serving Bhutan. You know, I know some people who are in our project monitoring, I don't want to name them, who have come and gone from the Indian government side, and are wonderful people who are doing good job here. So excellent brains, hard working, because that's what was taught. You know, when I came to engineering, my first day was, हमको घास काटने को बोला गया. Ghas, you know, that is what? You have to cut the grass. So we were all very shocked. We just entered the first year of engineering and somebody is asking us to cut grass. Most of us were very dejected. People had long faces. And then I gave them a solace. I said, no, this is like our college is trying to tell us to go closer to the Mother Earth. You know, I gave a lot of explanation even as a youngster to my other colleagues, 120 of them, but they were not convinced. They were saying, nahi, this is mistreating us, because everybody came from very well-to-do, because people don't become engineers from very poor families. Only very few people were from that segment, you know. I would say I was from a lower middle class. I had struggled. So my heart was bigger. I said, nahi, this is not like, they are not demeaning us or anything, you know. They are making us work, and they are making us realize that it's all, you have to come to the grassroots. I did not know whether I was right at a time, but it was funny. Suddenly, the man who made us cut grass, who was supposed to be also taking care of our smithy, carpentry, you know, when we came to the first year of the BTech course, he said, you know, my friends, why are you cutting grass? We all did not have the daring to answer him, because we just kept quiet. Everybody was making a very, not the real smile, but the rice smile. Some had rice smiles, some had forcible smiles, you know. Then suddenly he said, I'll tell you what. He asked me and a few people to cut the grass with that big thing, you know, which we call in Haryana the bharcha. I was in the state, it's called the bharcha. It's a long one. You have to cut the grass like that, you know. It's a steel thing with a very sharp edge, like a sword, you know. It's bended. So we had to hold the grass and cut it like that. So when each one of us cutting, he looked at us, and then he came. He said, you guys do not know how to cut grass. I'll tell you. It is all about forces. It was engineering forces that was taught to us at that time. And the rest was history. First day we were baptized, because we knew how to cut the grass. We had to put at an angle, then only the grass will cut. Many of us injured also before that. So what I mean to say is, we have to go to the ground. While we all get qualified, we'll become PhDs, we'll become masters or whatever, we must have great empathy for the people who is a farmer, who has done 20 years work in the field. I tell you, I do not know whether we will start a process. I'm giving you an idea for Bhutan. A process must be there to give him actually his PhD in farming after 25 years. Automatic. It is a university. It is in its own life university. So the problem of conventional education is, it is only trying to put one set of people on the front, and the rest are being rejected. So this will happen in every economy, and we must question it now, that experience, work, and alternative training, whether it has a place in our society or not, or we are going to create continuously elites. And, you know, it could include people like me also, because I have also come from conventional. But I am highly critical. Are we really going back and working and contributing to the society? And this matters. And in this, the discussion of hydro will also be a very critical discussion as we go forward, because the question of hydro will have to be asked in this way: does it finally benefit both India and Bhutan? But I'm saying forget India. See, why I tell you I say forget India? Because what is the capacity that I will get? I want a target of 2022. My target in India is 500 gigawatt. Suppose you give me, by all means, the 10 gigawatt now by 2022. What is the ratio 10 gigawatt in 500 gigawatt? Everybody knows here what is that. It is not just not going to make any difference to the economy at all. But then why India is investing? The next question everybody asks. Then why India is giving grants? Why India is investing? The answer lies in the fact that it is purely a friendship issue. It is purely that we don't want people of Bhutan to anyway suffer in any other way. I can tell you the larger wisdom, maybe some down the line there will be babus everywhere. We call them IS are babus for us, in India. I'm sometimes very critical about them. At the same time, I work with some good babus also. Okay? But I'm telling you, people who have not seen the ground will have a problem, and they are being questioned everywhere because they have to understand what is the ground reality. That is fine. But larger issue, this is an Indo-Bhutan friendship issue. It has nothing to do with India gaining anything, I can tell you, my friends. With my open heart, I've been dealing with the ministry very closely. And there is no question, they will give whatever the funds are required. Like Modi ji came first with I sent my magazine of April to him with a note, sir, you should not concentrate on any other region but SAARC. I was flabbergasted, and one of my issues, which will be here, if we can get that issue from my file, you will take that issue, what I wrote in May. This is very important for you guys to understand. This was my cover of May, right? The cover of May says, energy, power and water sector will be the core drivers of Modinomics in NDA's new avatar. This was my coverage. And in that I've written the countries that he must visit is Bhutan and Nepal. And I was highly critical. I even wrote that he should not focus on US at all, because US has disrespected him whether they like it or not. And this will be there, although diplomatically that will not be talked about. But I'm telling you that US has to find ways and means, because they suddenly, in Hindi there is a saying, you cannot be a ghadi mein tola, ghadi mein masha. You know what it means? You cannot suddenly be somebody else and suddenly you become Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You have to have a constancy of approach to us in Asia. I'm not talking of only India here. It's our respect, You cannot suddenly say that now Modi ji is good and before you deny us the visa. So these issues are very critical issues, and I think he sent a message very rightly, and he is a very tough negotiator, let me tell you. Don't even imagine that he will be light on anything, and the superpowers have to deal with him as an equal. And you have such a person who has got a very soft heart now, because he agreed to us, and the first visit you see was in Bhutan. I'm also saying that I'm very sometimes fed up with journalists who want to pop into the aircraft, So these guys are dead now in India, because those who want to just pop into the aircraft are not going to come. People who want to do their work, they are there. Like I'm very happy. Santosh me were workaholics, like he rightly said. We are not interested. See, Modi ji is doing a job. I have to do my job. We have all to work together. So that is the wisdom with which we are living, And I can assure you that every Indian will have to work hard. Like in your country also, I can assure you that every Bhutanese will have to work hard to make his economy or her economy to come up, Without every Bhutanese contribution, it will not come up, Because without the role of the private sector, I tell you, it will not come up. So you see from where I am coming, I'm not going to mince words on these issues. So hydropower is an asset for you. 110 years hydropower projects work. 110 years. Asset quality. And let's look at coal, which India has. 65% of India's power is delivered from coal. Asset quality is only 25 years. Because you need to renovate within that time. It's not that it will continue to run. I'll tell you, the maintenance expenses in a thermal power plant are just magnificent, enormous, and sometimes they can be a headache to you. And second, hydro in India in the mix cannot give, hydro is the only power other than gas which can give peaking load. It can come plug in, plug out kind of model. It can do. No other power can come, and none. We have a very major issue now in India. We have adopted the national grid frequency. Now what does this mean? Frequency is the quality of power. So we have to maintain a frequency now of 49.9 hertz to 50.05 hertz on the national grid. What does this imply? For common man, I want to explain. If you do not follow that band, that means if the generators, power generator, whether thermal or any other, do not generate that band, the voltages in the houses, in the industry and all are going to be massively falling. And they will have a major problem with the equipment, because at the end of the day, these reverse flows happen and go to your power plants and they will damage your machines. So frequency is the major issue, which Khazanchi sir will agree, and he will put in a much different way because he has seen this all together. So we are now tackling this issue of frequency. So the problem of, I told you, is we have come down on hydro to 16.5% is a major problem for India because we don't have gas also. So we are now jostling with that grid frequency. And I will tell you, the law is so funny. 50.05 hertz if you supply power, sorry, if you draw power, not supply, draw power, you can draw free of charge. That is the law. But nobody can go to 50.05. And next thing, the dangerous thing I tell you is, if you come to 49.99 hertz, you will draw power at 5 rupees. If you come to 49.7 hertz, in my country, you will draw power at 8 rupees 50 paisa. And if you draw power at 49.5 hertz, you're going to pay 17 to 18 rupees today for the tariff. This is going to destroy our distribution companies because all of them will make losses because now if the frequency is less, the utility will end up paying more and their losses will swell. So we are dealing with much complex problems over there. And hydro is a major subject for us. In India, without enhancing hydropower capacity back to at least 25%, India's whole electricity economy is going to struggle to feed its people because it cannot do it without that. So what is the solution that India has? I'll tell you what was the solution. 22nd August, just before coming here, we had a massive meeting called by the minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, and this minister was to enhance solar. And I wrote a white paper which was launched in Gujarat by the minister over there called India's Solar Superpower, 50 gigawatt by 2022. That was my target. Unbelievably, in that meeting, with all the stakeholders, the minister says what Professor Iyer is saying, we will go for that. Mission was 20 gigawatt of the previous government in India, which was very less because I said it will only bring 1.2% in power generation onto the grid, which is peanut. It cannot be called missions. Mission must at least have 5% capacity. That was 50 gigawatt. So I didn't do illogical calculations. I did logical calculation. So why hydro is needed? While this is going, we have another problem that coal is not available in the world market. You know the surprising thing? India is the largest importer of coal today. China is number 2. Nobody will believe me when I say this, but that is a fact. China is able to take coal out of this thing, but India is not able to produce more coal. Coal India Limited is only producing 640 million tons of coal when it has a capacity of roughly 298 billion tons of coal. So you see calculations, 298 billion tons of known coal reserves and producing only 640 million tons. You'll ask me why. I'll say major environmental reasons and populations are there where the coal exists. Coal is always coming in the eastern region. Many places there are this, and we have other problems also. It's very difficult to extract coal, and our coal is very high ash content in India. 40%, 45%, sometimes I have seen 55% ash content. So it is not easy to handle this, and its calorific value is much lower than the calorific value coming from Australia. Australian coal is about 5,800 kilocalories per kilogram. Indian coal is only 3,000 kilocalories per kilogram. So basically, because of this whole economics, the enhancement of coal will not happen overnight. It has to take the same route like hydro, that you will have to give mining contracts to people. Private sector must come forward. Without that, mining contracts will not come. Coal India is unable to extend its capacity, but Coal India can lease its mine for better output. Those kind of models will come. But this is a very long story. What I am saying is coal is also reducing, hydro is also reducing. So we have both problem of base load and peak load. And current shortfall in the country, as per reports produced by us at Energia Foundation given to the Government of India, is 80 gigawatt. Can you believe me? 80 gigawatt. And the previous regime was not accepting my figures, and I gave them hard figures. Now the new people say, yes, Professor, you're right. It's not 20 gigawatt. It is 80 gigawatt of energy that we need. In this, more the merrier. Whatever is supplied will be gulped, not consumed, gulped. Because it's a thirsty nation for electricity. So please understand, that's why I'm telling Bhutan that anything that you give, we are going to say, your ideas, what you want, because Khazanchi ji explained to me, the deal is only to sell the surplus power. Am I right, sir? So it is not that we are taking all the power from you. We are saying first, Bhutan, right of the power generation from here is for Bhutanese. After Bhutanese are satisfied, then whatever you can give me, you give. The only thing I'm saying, please don't give to, I'm not naming, but please don't give to the other friends of yours. You can give them later. First charge to me. If I refuse to take, then you go to the next one. So India is a very soft country. It is a very soft giant, I give you a story about India also here. Exciting. There is an elephant sitting in the water, right? And this elephant is very, very happy, and this pushing a lot of mud on it. Suddenly a deer comes. The deer wanted to drink water. And this elephant, what it did, it flipped its tail, in the happiness. And the deer just swung around. A deer went and said, this elephant is a crook. Elephant does not know that the tail has hit this deer, because elephant did not actually intend to hit. Suddenly there is another one which came. Another. He went to the fox and said, this guy is now, you go and try to drink water, he does this. He goes, and this time the elephant flips. And when he flips, lot of mud and this goes on top of the fox. The fox says, oh, he's not going to cooperate. So India's situation is like this. So India is very sensitive to these matters. And we are looking, this big elephant which is gay, abandoned, it's not caring, it's not bothered, has to see even if it moves, somebody will say, you hurt me. So that kind of situation is there. So I hope that we can understand this and then make our movements more slowly, see around what's happening, be concerned. While I flip my tail in my happiness, I do not hurt somebody. It was not intentional, but I am saying that this is the funny part of the whole story. But believe you me, India is exactly like that elephant. It will never come at you. It's the most intelligent creature. It is only wanting to survive itself. Okay, it wants to live with its herd. It wants also, sometimes will take care of other herds also. If a small kid is lost and lost his mother. So elephant is a very empathetic creature. So I feel India's empathy is massive. So please don't mistake if we sometimes, see, human beings will make mistakes, but nations do not make mistakes. The friendship that has been started is not a mistake. It is something which has to go forward only. And the fears and tribulations that both parties have in the relationship, it is in any relationships. And I think we need to have more trust, which I explained to you. Trust is the only value relationship that will come. We will not satisfy everybody. Sometimes there is we'll say, sir, a lot of talk is going on, but no action is going on. But you see the forces. Action is not a one-man show. Even Modi cannot do anything unless Indians are deciding to support him. Mentally, psychologically, physically, nationally. If every Indian does not think that he will go forward and work like Modi Saab. Now today Modi is sleeping only 2 hours a day. I came to know about what is the situation from the close quarter. If every Indian dares to do that, I tell you, then only India will come up. So you can't go and blame the Prime Minister of India who's working hard and trying to change things, The criticism that Dr. Manmohan Singh got was he was just looking at the other end to make decisions. So that was the only criticism, but not that he was not sincere or anything. He was sincere, but he was sincere follower, loyal. He's so loyal that he will even wait to go to the toilet. That was the situation. So that situation had to change. Though Modi was a man who would dynamically in Gujarat, he would just do what he wants to do. And that's what he did. He actually ensured that he was single-mindedly going for 24/7 electricity, I'm telling you. Because electricity access was critical. And first thing they did is, they made all the villages of Gujarat 24/7. Now Chhattisgarh, another state, has come forward. What I mean to say is, just urban centers are having electricity and the farmer does not have his dangerous. So what they did to the farmer wanted free power. In India, there is this big political issue. Everybody says, hum fokat bijli dega, free power to you. The moment an election comes, we free power. Free power, who will pay for this power? It will be paid by the government at the end of the day. Because the utilities will have to go and say, sir, we don't have money. The government will take from the budget and pay that one. Now this stopped after Modi came, because Modi said, I will not give you any free power. So then they said, I do not know, but if you don't give free power, what will you give? He said, what do you want to the farmers? Farmers said, we want water in our fields. He says, okay, I'll give you free water. They were shocked. They said, how is it possible? He said, the only one condition is there. You open your fields. And it was a mission, I tell you, 1.5 lakh check dams were built in the fields of Gujarat. And how did he get this funded? The diamond industry of Gujarat was struggling. Because why it was? There was a lot of inspector raj. Because diamond wala bahut paisa hai, right? Inspectors used to come, ask for the bribe. Otherwise, I'll take you to this thing, I'll make your life miserable. These guys used to bribe them, so that they don't make any false cases on them, right? This Modi came to know that this was happening. So what did he do? He very cleverly, he said, okay, you contribute, and I will see which inspector comes. And if he harasses, the government is open to talk to you. Simple, transparent thing. Nobody can harass anybody. He understood this. But he said, you must contribute. You are seen as people who don't contribute. You make a lot of black money, he said. You're seen as black marketers, because you don't put everything on your balance sheet. That resulted in revolution in 2 industries. that the diamond industry today is leading industry of the country. India is the leader now. Is not even Israelis have joined hands. The global diamond certification is done by Surat in Gujarat now. So Surat became the leader in the diamond. Cut polished diamonds is India is the leader. 80% of polished diamonds go from a city called Surat. Unfortunately, my colleague is not there here, Hital. Otherwise, would explain to you why. And textile also, they are 70% of clothing of India, and also exports of India is done by one city called Surat. So it is just mind-boggling what happened at the time. And what the farmers got, all these check dams, some 1,000 crores they needed for that. So 500 crores came from simply the diamond industry, and balance slowly came from every other. Because it was chief ministers, that I was chief minister and he wanted. And these check dams resulted in water table in Gujarat coming up by 17 meters. Now what this does further, after it came to 17 meters, farmers stopped using submersible pump sets. Because submersible pump sets drew huge power, and that resulted in 2,000 megawatt of power being released back into the grid. Because now, remember this, it is not 2,000 anymore, it is 2,000 to 2. Why? Because 2,000 megawatt is growing free. So not only it is released, it is also billed. So double whammy, you know. So this is the type of revolution that he started with in the electricity sector. And I tell you, 6 times Gujarat has won my Inertia Awards, starting from the year 2008 and till last year, and even this year, I don't think our jury will be able to give anybody the award other than Gujarat. But I'm trying to encourage other states. Maybe I'll consider a Tamil Nadu or a West Bengal to come in, you know, because I have to encourage, because it's all Gujarat, Gujarat, Gujarat. Okay, so it's a little bit, everybody fed up, you know, we cannot win, you know. So now we have to do something. Otherwise, we have to tell them not to participate. But that will not happen, you know. In the near future, I will have to allow them to participate. So this, please understand what is the transformation and the agent of transformation that has done. It's not about him, it's about a practical thinking. The other big project that Modi ji wants to do is the Kalpasar project in Gujarat also, and also the river networking in India. Of course, there are 2 visions in this river networking. One is, people like me feel that we should not network all the rivers just like that. We should be networking regionally the rivers, based on the basins. So I'm giving a paper on that also. I have a lot of work here, because the views come. In India, there is a collaborative effort. Our think tank is constantly interacting with the governments. Even the previous regime continuously listened, but they did nothing. They only took our papers, acknowledged that we are receiving, but they kept it and then they sat on it. But Modi ji in the last 3 or 4 months has listened to whatever I have said, and my team has said. We have 250 professionals and 30,000 people networked on the energy scenario in India and overseas. I have also people in other countries, you know, with the Inertia Foundation. So it's not a small mission. As Santosh ji told me, started, it's a 2-decade-old work, and more the merrier. I got people from all walks of life, people from all around India, people from Europe, people from even Africa, people from, you know, we are dealing with a country like Mozambique, which is very rich in energy resources. And also at the same time, we deal with Gabon. You know, Gabon, a small country, which is major hydro resource. We made, and you know, our experts made the country report for Gabon, free of charge, because we funded it with a private sector company. I don't want to name them here. But the country report was not made by Indian government. It was made by a private company for them, by employing government people of India, ex-retired personnel. So revolution in India is different, and nobody is coming in between why you did this and why you do that, because it is a free economy where, you know, if the government of India has to go, it has to fund all the report. If this comes automatically through a process, and some, I would say, private sector fellow says, I'm happy because it creates goodwill for me as a brand, and I fund this. I don't think we should be so skeptical that we don't receive that money. And this is the way, even for Bhutanese economy. I think we should, I'm making a statement here very clearly. I think India should first not be bothered whether this order goes to BHEL or anybody. And this is the view I got inside. Let it go to any turbine manufacturer. You must start there. I'm very much keen, and I'm publicly endorsing this issue. Because BHEL competes with everybody in my country. They compete with Voith, they compete with Alstom, and they take all the orders. So what is the, and in fact, here also when I have talked people, there was no monopoly for BHEL. Nobody is interested in it. So I think this type of certain areas, and I'm telling you, it is only 20% of the total project cost. 80% is civil works. So people are discussing the 20% issue and forgetting the 80% issue. Civil engineering is predominant. Electromechanical is only 20% of the job in a hydro project. So it's not a major issue, and I think nobody is bothered, you know, whichever best turbine is winning the game, and it is able to give at the lowest cost. I think transparently, and what is the problem in India in endorsing this when the same BHEL competes with them everywhere in the world? And I think my WAPCOS friend will also agree. So last time also I said this, you know, because I'm highly critical, I said, why should we go ahead with this kind of this thing. Okay, you may give a preference to them, but then it cannot be a preference which can be endless, It has to come from a point of view of competition and competitive law. So on this issue, I have a very clear view, and my view cannot change, It has never changed for the last so many years on that. And BHL is a company which I love. I've given them many awards in the past, and I've given them R&D award. And they are, in fact, because of me, they became top 10 company in the world in the Forbes survey. Forbes magazine made a survey. They quoted me also. And they became the top 10 global companies in, I would say the rotating equipment and basically electrical and power generation equipment. It was top 10 company. But right now, BHL's situation is not good because the previous government did something to them what happened to Air India. So I hope Modi is able to take care of that, because there is a lot of problems that have been created with this company. Of course, it's a very strong company. It has a capacity to recoup, and I think that will come back. So these are examples, And civil engineering, I tell you the opportunity today, we'll all tell, but I'll tell you. For example, many years back, I said clinker is the one which should be sent and not cement. So great idea, because that was followed by Jay Mehta. Now he's married to Jui Chawla ji. He's the owner of Saurashtra Cements. And he was one of the biggest cement maker. I was trying to give captive power plant to them in those days. I gave it to Narottam Sekhri of Gujarat Ambuja, famously, who sold off his company to the Holcims of the world. All this happened. But all of these operators, I told them they should use the coastline of India, send clinker, because what happened when they sent cement, moisture absorption in cement was massive. And dehydrating cement was impossible. So Jay and others agreed to my point. I said, you have to make your grinding, packing and blending facility go out of your cement plant. This was my suggestion 2 decades back to them. And rest is history. Today, India has a lot of grinding, packing and I would say blending facilities. So in your case of hydropower, civil construction, private operators have a great opportunity that they do joint venture in clinker from India. Clinkerization comes, high quality. And then you do the grinding, packing and this blending with the specifications according to the projects. And you can see, because we have to find solution, not cry that we cannot do. A lot of projects can come. And these things can enhance your opportunity. And at the same time, as I came back on solar is the mission for India. We are expanding to, on 22nd, I told you the minister expanded it to 50 gigawatt. And he says, Professor, we would like to do 100 gigawatt. I'm writing a paper to him. What is the roadmap? But he was very, our ministers are different, He came, he said to the entire crowd of 250 people that I'm ready to embrace more. But what happens? I'm only facilitator. I'm making the policy. It is you, the private sector. It was all private sector because in solar in India, we do not have too much of PSU other than NTPC trying to integrate and consolidate the projects, So they said, NTPC chairman was there also, Mr. Arup Roy Chaudhary. He was very supportive. He supported solar in a big way. In fact, NTPC has taken solar in a very big way. So what they said, that it is for you guys, if you don't make it, if you don't create manufacturing in India, if you don't create the capacity, I will be the one who loses ministerial chair. He said, that is the fear I have. A minister openly says this in front of all media like us, constructive media like others, everywhere same type of media is there. It is no different. Some of us will get flack, some of my colleagues will get positive things, but don't blame the media. We should not, actually blame the media. Media will go and do its work and we will do our work. So minister was sincere. 3 hours he spoke sincerely that you people come forward and I'm ready to listen to you. And minister was the last man to speak on that day because he got everybody to speak. He says, no, even if I don't get to speak, it's okay. So that is the kind of shift that has happened within the economy, the transparency. And with this new India, 100% opportunity for SAARC because Modi ji is in love with SAARC. And when he says SAARC, he first sent the clear message by coming to Bhutan first. So I think today we should give a big hand to our Prime Minister also for doing that because he first came to Bhutan and no other country. So I think the solar mix, and I have already recommended just about 2 days back, I have to still send the paper suggesting this. So people from, I would have loved if all the people from the government were here, but it's good, when we will have an open discussion. All of them are not here. Some of them would have come, some of them are part of it. But I'm saying, basically, but I had a discussion with the ambassador also here, which I want to share with you. My point is we can extend our feed-in tariff to you. It's a possibility. And that they have agreed. Like we are giving to all the states the same feed-in tariff. The tariff can be extended and some power can be absorbed from Bhutan and it should be reserved for the private sector. Because this is not a government sector job. Because this is like a 25 megawatt, we can make a kitty. It can all be located in one place, metering and monitoring from there. It goes into the grid. India buys it at the existing power cost, and then you guys are about say 20 or 30 of your companies can come forward and they can select the partners from India, and then they have to execute these projects. Because compared to hydro is highly complicated, but solar is not that complicated. It has no moving parts. It's much easier to execute solar, and it's quick also because solar will come back into the grid in barely 1 year. Like I give you an example. In last 3 years, India has delivered 2,800 megawatt of solar on the grid, which is phenomenal. 2,800 megawatt. And we had not even, I would say, a semblance of a megawatt before that on the grid. So what does it mean? It means solar is a revolutionary. So it will also balance this. Let the hydro continue to build itself in a big way. Let solar also come. Who is stopping? In fact, I would say WAPCOs should take up solar as well. For them, the whole energy portfolio, they are doing transmission, distribution in other places. So solar is an opportunity. So this will be the new movement. Because I told you the shortfall in India is massive. Demand is huge. Any amount comes, it's like another river flowing into the ocean. And more the merrier.